just gotten up and I went to the toilet and realised that my front door was open and my daughter's not here.
Okay, what's your address?
It's 15/342 Woodstock Avenue, Mount Druitt.
Okay. You just get the police on their way out there, okay? How old is your daughter?
A 6-year-old girl vanished from her bedroom overnight. No witnesses, no forced entry, just a mother begging the nation for help. For months, Australia searched for Kiesha Weippeart, but the truth was far darker than anyone imagined, and the person closest to her disappearance was hiding something unimaginable.
A mannequin dressed as the missing 6-year-old Kiesha Abrahams has gone on display in the hope it will prompt someone to come forward with information. Police put it up outside the girl's Mount Druitt home. That's where she was last seen by her mother the night before she disappeared. It's now 17 days since she was reported missing.
On the night Kiesha was reported missing, 6-year-old Kiesha Weippeart was said by her mother, Kiesha Abrahams, to have been put to bed at the family's unit in Mount Druitt at about 9:30 p.m. According to the account provided to police and the media, Kiesha was discovered missing the following morning. The front door of the unit was reported to be open, with no obvious signs of forced entry. Abrahams and her partner, Robert Smith, told investigators and reporters that the child had vanished overnight. They stated that they had watched a movie together as a family and that Kiesha had gone to bed wearing her pajamas and a jacket. The disappearance was initially treated as a possible abduction or unexplained missing child case.
Anyone has seen her? Can they please contact the police?
Please come home. Please, contact the police. Do anything in your power to please come back home.
Later police statements and court reporting, however, indicated that there were immediate concerns about the accuracy of this account. Investigators established that no confirmed sightings of Kiesha by people outside her immediate household had occurred for a significant period before the missing report was made. This later became a central issue in the investigation.
Perhaps, Robert, do you want to speak on behalf of Christy?
What would you like to say, mate?
If there's anyone out there that knows or seen anything, just come forward, contact the police.
What have the last 3
It
days?
really help.
Rob, do you want to talk us through the last time you saw Kiesha?
Following the emergency report, a large-scale search operation was launched around the Mount Druitt and Hebersham area. Police, emergency services personnel, and volunteers conducted door knocks and searched nearby bushland, streets, parks, and surrounding backyards. The case attracted intense media attention. Television crews and journalists remained outside the family's unit block for several days, broadcasting appeals for information and updates on the progress of the search. Despite the extensive physical search, no confirmed sightings or trace of Kiesha were found. Over time, investigators publicly stated that the search had been exhaustive. The disappearance continued to be investigated by a dedicated task force, and the focus gradually shifted away from locating a living child to determining what had occurred inside the family home. Several months later, police announced that, based on the evidence gathered, they believed Kiesha was dead, and that the matter was being treated as a homicide investigation.
So that's perhaps something that people might be able to jog their memory, or in fact they may find some of these items of clothing around the neighbourhood.
With the search hitting a dead end, police treated the people who last had daily access to Kiesha Weippeart as primary persons of interest. Her mother, Kiesha Abrahams, and her partner, Robert Smith, were therefore interviewed on multiple occasions while the matter was still formally classified as a missing person investigation.
So had she changed from her pyjamas, or was she still in her pyjamas at this stage? When she cut her head?
No, she would have been getting dried.
Oh,
so she would have had nothing on.
Okay, so she's having showers. So the kids have showers in the morning, do they? The children?
Morning and night, whenever.
Okay.
From a forensic standpoint, this is standard practice. Investigators begin by establishing what is known as the last contact environment, meaning the location and people connected to the child immediately before disappearance. The family unit becomes the primary forensic scene, even when there is no obvious sign of violence. However, when Kiesha Abrahams was directly questioned about the presence of blood located inside the home during the police search, she strongly and unequivocally denied that the blood had any connection to Kiesha or to any incident involving her.
Would there be any reason why there'd be more blood, not just in her unit, but throughout the unit?
What are you trying to say?
I'm just saying that when we forensically examine the unit, there's an amount of Kiesha's blood throughout the unit. And I'm just trying to ask you how that would have got there.
I don't know.
No? Okay.
For investigators, this type of denial is not treated in isolation. In forensic interviewing and crime scene reconstruction, a suspect's explanation is assessed against the physical context in which the evidence is found. When a person asserts that a child has simply disappeared overnight, but biological material belonging to that child is located within the residence, investigators must evaluate whether the denial can realistically account for how that evidence came to be present. In practice, this is one of the critical comparison points in forensic casework: the consistency or inconsistency between a person's verbal account and the objective trace evidence recovered from the scene.
Is that how you put her to bed that night, like that?
No, I put the blanket over her.
Okay, does she normally kick the blankets out when she's asleep?
Yeah, because she sweats.
From an interrogation psychology perspective, Christie's repeated jaw clenching and cheek biting were interpreted by investigators as defensive stress behaviors.
Okay. So when the police found the bed just simply like that, was that unusual to find it like that, simply folded back nice?
Well, it's
and
unusual
like
not to see her in the bed.
These actions are commonly associated with psychological self-protection, particularly when an individual feels threatened by questioning or by evidence they cannot explain.
Yeah, I understand that, but I'm just saying that the neatness of the bed. Would you normally keep a nice, neat room?
Well, she makes her bed every morning.
Okay.
While such behaviors do not constitute proof of guilt on their own, they are significant when assessed alongside verbal denials and physical evidence. In this case, the contrast between Christie's strong verbal rejection of responsibility and her observable stress responses was noted by investigators as part of the broader behavioral analysis used to evaluate her credibility. With the formal interviews yielding no breakthroughs, police quietly changed course. Rather than pressing Christie further in recorded interrogations, investigators shifted their focus away from the interview room and toward the broader picture. From that point on, the investigation moved out of public view. What appeared outwardly to be a stalled missing person case was in reality entering its most decisive phase. Police began gathering information in ways that did not rely on cooperation or confessions, but on observation, patience, and time.
Saw it on the 6 o'clock news on Sunday afternoon. I'm actually from Canberra, and if someone has got her, give it back or just contact the police. Thank you.
As public attention intensified, the police investigation moved in the opposite direction, away from public appeals and toward evidentiary resolution.
And the shoes were neat, so bedroom's generally tidy, is it?
Yes, because I clean it.
Okay. Are we talking about the park around Woodstock?
Yes, right next door.
Right next door?
Yes.
Okay, so for Robert to end up in Westfield at Mount Druitt, is that unusual?
As questioning progressed, Christie displayed visible stress responses. She kept her fist to her mouth and cast brief, guarded glances toward the investigators. In forensic interviewing, such behaviors are documented not as proof of deception, but as indicators of heightened psychological pressure when a subject is confronted with difficult or conflicting information.
What do you mean?
Well, Robert's, when he's left your unit, he's gone into Westfield, all the way to Westfield, and looked inside Westfield.
Like he's looked all the way where we walked down to Westfields.
Yeah, but you don't take her to the shops.
I do, like...
Now, look, I've been through a whole week of her life, and she hasn't left the unit.
So what are you trying to say?
No, what I'm trying to say is, why did he end up down in Mount Druitt?
The more investigators explored a range of plausible scenarios that might explain Kiesha's disappearance, Christie became increasingly defensive in her responses, reacting more sharply as each possibility was raised.
Shopping centre.
But he looked all around, and to go to Mount Druitt.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that you don't take her shopping. Why would she go there? She's never been there, has she?
She has. Maybe not the week that you're talking about. Oh, you know what? This is over, seriously, because what are you trying to get at?
All right, I'll move on. All I'm saying is, I'm saying that Robert, why did he go to Westfield? That's all I'm asking. It's a simple
question. To have a look. You would have seen, you would have got the CT.
But it's a long way from where you are.
At this point, investigators had obtained all they could from Christy Abrahams through direct questioning. While inconsistencies and behavioral concerns persisted, police did not yet have sufficient physical evidence to directly incriminate her or her partner in Kiesha's death. The investigation therefore shifted away from interrogation and toward evidentiary confirmation.
Well, the disappearance of schoolgirl Kiesha Weippeart left her community in mourning and captivated the country as her mother made public appeals for help to find her daughter. Now, almost 2 years after the 6-year-old's remains were discovered buried in bushland, the final twist police had been waiting to hear. Her mother, Kiesha Abrahams, admitted she killed her own daughter. The 30-year-old was due to go on trial to fight murder charges when she suddenly changed her plea to guilty.
In April 2011, almost 9 months after Kiesha Weippeart was last seen and reported missing, police activity intensified in bushland in western Sydney near Stony Creek Road, close to Shalvey. Officers located skeletal remains at a site that immediately drew attention for its characteristics. The area was isolated, removed from major thoroughfares, and consistent with routes investigators had identified as plausible based on reconstructed movement patterns from Mount Druitt during the relevant period. The remains were believed to be those of Kiesha Weippeart, whose disappearance had remained unresolved for months. The discovery did not introduce a new direction so much as confirm the one investigators had been narrowing toward, providing a physical focal point where timelines, behavioral analysis, and forensic evidence could finally converge.
What does it mean to you to see her plead guilty like that?
It means a lot to everybody, not just me, but the whole community.
When Kiesha was found, she had sustained severe blunt force trauma to her jaw. Forensic experts testified that the impact was strong enough to fracture her teeth and lower jaw, injuries described in court as consistent with a powerful blow. The damage was significant, with evidence suggesting that the force had effectively forced her teeth together. Following the injury, Kiesha became unresponsive. No emergency services were contacted. Instead of seeking medical assistance, she was left unattended. By the time the adults in the home returned, she was dead. What followed was not a report to authorities, but an attempt to conceal what had occurred. Kiesha's body was placed into a suitcase and kept inside the residence for several days. It was later transported to Bushland, where it was burned and buried in an effort to destroy evidence. They then reported her missing and pretended for the next 8 months the little girl had disappeared.
Hi, I've just gotten up and I went to the toilet and realised that my front door was open and my daughter's not here.
Okay, what's your address?
It's 15/342 Woodstock Avenue, Mount Druitt.
Okay. We'll just get the police on their way out there, okay? How old is your daughter?
She's 6.
She's 6? Have you checked all the units?
No, I've just gotten up.
Okay, what's your name?
Christy, I'm her mum.
Okay, Christy, what's your last name?
Abraham.
Yeah, and what's your phone number there?
I've just got the mobile. I don't know the mobile number.
Okay. What's your mobile?
Oh no, I don't know.
What's your daughter's name?
Kiesha.
What is it?
Kiesha.
Spell it.
Kiesha.
Yep. Abraham?
Yes.
And she's 6?
Yeah, she's 6.
Okay, so she, as far as you know, she would be in her pyjamas, or you don't know?
Yes, she's in her pyjamas.
Okay. So what time would you have last seen her? Last night?
I put her to bed at 9:30, 9:45.
And do you have any other family that live in the unit block?
No.
Any neighbours that she would talk to?
No.
And it runs off, what is that, Marina Street?
Pardon?
The corner street, there's Marina Street?
Carwell.
The abuse started years before Kiesha was murdered by her mother. The little girl was just 15 months old when Christy Ann Abrahams viciously bit her daughter's shoulder. Various court documents and prosecution submissions indicated that Abrahams expressed resentment toward Kiesha, in part because the child resembled her biological father, Christopher Weippeart. Evidence presented during proceedings suggested that this resentment contributed to a pattern of hostility and mistreatment, which the court examined in assessing the circumstances surrounding Kiesha's death. A post-mortem examination showed Kiesha was the victim of severe child abuse in the weeks and months leading up to her death. Abrahams was convicted of biting Kiesha in the shoulder when she was aged just 15 months old, and at the age of 3, Kiesha told a social worker her mother had burned her with a cigarette. Smith was jailed for at least 12 years for Kiesha's manslaughter and for being an accessory to murder. The judge found Abrahams did not intend to kill Kiesha when she inflicted no more than 2 blows on the little girl, but intended to cause her grievous bodily harm. The judge said he could not be satisfied beyond reasonable doubt that Abrahams was responsible for Kiesha's prior injuries, and that Kiesha's death was the inevitable product of entire intergenerational failures, noting Abrahams herself was abused as a child. He continued to say that the offender's failures are mirrored in the failures of others. Abrahams will be eligible for parole in April 2027. If you enjoy our crime stories and in-depth investigations, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share the video with others who love true crime.